Well, thank you for having us. Jurgita, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can go with short introductory introduction. I guess. Sorry if my parrot interrupts the stream. He also awfully likes attention as I and Damien do. So yeah, the reason we are here is that we do write a lot of about cybersecurity. From the artificial intelligence, point of view, and we do write about artificial intelligence a lot, because it's way more than just a technical issue, a technical topic, even though some of the predictions, and we'll get into that, I guess, a bit later, some of the visions, that are out where about the matrix world are still not true, they're kind of becoming true, and we see I guess, crumbs of it, and we are trying to imagine the artificial intelligence world, so we are very interested in the topic. And, we do read books and write book reviews, also interviews, trying, to question the topic from every possible, I guess, angle, and get a lot of different insights, both from fiction and I guess and real world examples. Yeah, so that's my intro, I guess. Shouldn't be too vague. Damien.
You mentioned fiction. What was your favorite, or what is to date your favorite artificial intelligence inspired fiction? And I don't mean like written by ChatGPT, obviously. I don't think we're quite there yet. Um, but is there a particular story about artificial intelligence that did it for you, that kind of really attracted you to the idea? Back when it was kind of largely the preserve of fiction, right? Because now it's becoming ever closer to being full blown reality. But I just wanted to start by backtracking a few years, if that's okay.
Yeah, I know. When I wasn't working with technology news, obviously, and cybersecurity news, everything was way more interesting, and I guess a little bit more mystique to me, because I didn't understand as much as I do now, and I don't understand anything these days, anyways, because the deeper you go into the woods, right, the more there are trees. So I don't know, uh, years ago, I guess it seemed like really, really easy for me. And I think I believed a lot of the ads, that technology companies, how they would present you the future, of it wasn't the artificial intelligence wasn't a buzzword back then, I guess, so more just like the uh, probably we should talk about something like technology enabled, technology enhanced future, and I would buy those ideas. And even the recent Zuckerberg's vision of how the metaverse will be, I still kind of got excited about this, just how we could use that technology for good, but once we started writing and covering this topic, and especially from the security angle, I just sort of saw that world from the like really, really dark and gloom perspective, and also being a journalist, looking for flaws, and then seeing how it actually can hurt people, and it already does, even though like the metaverse is not a mainstream thing yet, right? But we covered some of the rape stories, right, there in the metaverse. So none of it is fiction anymore, I guess. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any particular idea in mind, or I don't know, like maybe a film or a novel?
I guess for me, artificial intelligence, it was always kind of tied to the concept of the cyborg. So, I remember like the Terminator films growing up. That's the obvious one. Skynet, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was made into Blade Runner several years later, quite a few years later. Yeah, it was always kind of posited as the idea of something, drastically superseding us and basically rendering us redundant, if not trying to outright destroy us. But the reality of it is, I don't know, it does seem so mundane now, doesn't it? I mean, it's you hear them discussing it in the Senate, garbage in, garbage out. That's what they refer to it as. I mean, there was even a physicist, I don't recall his name off the top of my head, but he recently said that it was the equivalent of a glorified tape recorder. But then he went on to say that he still thought it could achieve great things, but I think he was saying that to kind of debunk what he saw as some of the myths that are surrounding it. I mean, it just, I don't know, it just seems to become a focus for a lot of hysteria now. But then again, there was that fellow I interviewed recently, and he kind of dropped it in at the end of an interview. I mean, I don't want to scare people listening to this, but he was saying that essentially he thought that, just to put it in context for the listeners, that this for the audience, we were actually talking about disinformation online. Actually, that was the thrust of the interview. The guy was called Wasim Khaled. He is in charge of an artificial intelligence firm called Blackbird that does something called digital twinning, where it kind of creates online clones of the virtual you that would go online to run experiments on it, all for marketing. It's always about making money at the end of the day. But he dropped this in towards the end of the interview. He said he thought that AI would kill off 50 jobs for every one it created, which is, that was the first person I had interviewed in AI to go on the record as saying something like that. All the other people, I don't know about you, Jurgita, that I've spoken to have tried to play it down and said, no, it will create as many jobs as it destroys. Don't you worry, you'll be fine. This guy, I don't know if you read through the interview when I wrote it up, but he had quite a different take on it. Now that's interesting to me, isn't it? It is, because if that turns out to be true, and you have this wonderfully articulate machine data processor that can mimic human functionality in enough cases that it essentially kills off swathes of jobs, a lot of them middle class. I mean, what are the social dimensions of that? I mean, I could see that leading into revolutions of the 21st century. I'm not sure that would be entirely a good thing.
I think you need inspiration, and you need ideas for the revolution. Or yes, you need to, I guess, lose a lot of jobs, like to the steam machine and something like that. But I really liked the idea that Valius proposed for our discussion. Like that vision of artificial intelligence world versus reality. And I basically see two camps. So one camp is kind of trying to visualize this world. It's either like utopian or dystopian, more dystopian because, of all the things you said, and, also all the dangers looming in there from like small things like racism and, denying you alone to like bloody revolutions and whatnot. And then there's like other camp people who are like really pragmatic, and they look into what actual algorithms and machine learning models can do, and they say, okay, they can do nothing because also just did an article about that was Black Hat conference we've been to, sort of a brief from the conference, but basically, whenever you add some noise, some visual noise that you as a person wouldn't even notice to a picture of a panda, the machine would get confused and then say that's a gibbon actually. So, when you
Really, it would actually go that far off the track, so it would confuse.
and because
species of bear, if I'm correct, with a species of monkey. That's pretty rare.
So when you look from that perspective, then you think, okay, there's nothing to worry about, right? We are.
But it advances so quickly, isn't it? It's like now you ask ChatGPT to write a poem or an article, and 9 times out of 10, it's pretty dreadful. But this stuff moves.
Yeah,
it's almost become a cliche to say it moves exponentially, but it does, doesn't it? I mean,
I think
where are we in a year and a half?
We can't really afford to be pragmatic about this topic, and that's why I think we need to tap into literature and whatever filmmaking. Just have creators, and there's been some attempts for the creators to kind of imagine that world, so we could actually maybe part of that won't be true yet, but just kind of to imagine the feeling, the psychological feeling, how it would just how it would be. That's why I reread Gibson's Neuromancer recently. That's a novel written in 1984. That basically a novel that inspired the Matrix movie. The movie on the novel has never been made. It should become series this year on Apple TV. But basically, I think that we need, creators and those people who are maybe, not talking facts, but they are kind of capturing the fear, because, like losing your job is one thing, and I don't think that's like the most scary one. People do adapt, and generations adapted. Of course, it's scary, but there are way scarier things. I recently did an interview with a applied neuroscientist. Ben Sawyer was one of my interviewees, right? And we were talking about basically digital twins, and the idea that when you feed your information, other personal sensitive one about your personal life, your work, whatnot, into models like ChatGPT, you are actually creating your digital twin, because the information is out there, even if you like press delete, right? And he, instead of walking me through their technical details, just kind of gave me a broad overview. What does it mean to have a digital twin? And really soon enough, we will be, able to have our own chatbot. That would mean, if Jurgita, as a human person, she's working only 8 hours, and then, when I leave work, there's my digital me, basically, and she can continue doing work through the night because she doesn't get tired and whatnot, right? And even though, like, at this point, I'm in charge of that, my digital twin, because AI is not sentient yet. What do I know, what that algorithm will be able to do during the night when it's tasked with, complex and moral situations, and not just, some, daily tasks. So I think what I'm trying to say here, that I think it's really, really important to have this broader idea, maybe a more sci-fi at this point, but it won't be sci-fi in 2 years, so that we would actually get interested, get dragged into the discourse, because it's important, it's there, it's already mainstream, right? So yes, of course, we need to have the facts, but also, as you, Damien, said, need to have the fact that, the landscape is evolving like really quickly, so something might not be possible today, but tomorrow we might have a totally different picture, right? So
okay, and tomorrow we might have a totally different picture, but what about yesterday and all our yesterdays, because you, I believe, looked at that other interview I did with a guy called Dr. Justin Lane, and he was very forthright. I mean, that was another eye-opener I had, talking to an AI expert, and he said to me, I don't know if you recall, but right now, AI as it's being done, which is based on the large language learning model, which is, for those of you listening that maybe aren't familiar, it's where the AI software is made to scrape a lot of data off the internet, and yeah, that can lead to digital twinning. But what it essentially boils down to, he said, if I can try and distill it here, was, okay, maybe not garbage in, garbage out, but certainly data in, data out, and it's being fed by a human actor, artificially, of course. And he said, look, this will never, machine learning as it's being practiced today, it's making waves. It will certainly have very useful applications, but on its current trajectory, it will never come close to matching the human psyche, if I could put it that way, for the simple reason, he said, is that it cannot mirror human evolution. And the example he cited, which, again, I'm being a bit reductive for the purpose of a, finite podcast slot, but what he said is, look, if you as an adult hear loud noise behind you, bang, you'll instinctively jump. Well, guess what? A newborn baby or child that hasn't been exposed to that, it will do the same. And it has been, the reason being is our brains have been programmed by millions of years of evolution. And it's an organic process that he seemed to think cannot be replicated by a machine learning process by which fully evolved human actors feed information into the software and get it to essentially regurgitate it. And if what he's saying is true, then, and look, I'm just like you, I'm just the guy that talks to the experts. And also the other thing we should mention is in this field, as in actually so many others, even the experts profoundly disagree. But if what he's saying is true, then, essentially what he was telling me is that this is a lot of hype, the doomsday scenario, AI taking us over. Not even close, becoming self-aware, becoming sentient. That was Justin Lane's take. I mean, if you give me a second, I will recall the name of the company he represents in case any of you are interested, but his name is Dr. Justin Lane, and his company, I believe, if I can find it, is Culture Pulse. And again, he's running an AI company for commercial purposes. Let's make no bones about it. He is on the for-profit model. But as far as he's concerned, on its current trajectory, and he was quite outspoken about this, unequivocal, it will never attain self-consciousness. And going back to Wasim Khaled, the other fellow I cited just before, he said, yes, he thinks it will put lots of people out of jobs, but in terms of that kind of Terminator Skynet type scenario, not going to happen. Which is interesting, because then we have the fellow that was from Google, and he recently, that quit, the British-born scientist, and he was seemingly saying the opposite. So who do you believe, Jurgita? I mean, who do you go with?
The thing I learned yesterday is that doesn't even matter.
Right.
Yeah, but let me get to the point. I also, and I can recommend the book to you guys. I just did a review by Nicholas Humphrey, Oxford professor, Sentience it's called. It talks about, how we basically came to be sentient, which is really important if you want to start understanding whether a robot, can somehow become sentient. You need to understand what does it mean for human beings to be sentient, right? And he also talks about that from the evolutionary perspective, and basically comes to a conclusion that, only some of the warm-blooded mammals and birds, if I'm not mistaken, can, develop sentience. And that's,
right.
Evolutionary process. I'm not gonna get into that, but after reading that book, I also was under the impression, okay, so there's no way, by looking into science, and taking something from science, there's no way that a robot can be sentient. It can maybe, be built trying to kind of mimic what we imagine as sentience, but basically it can become sentient on its own. But then I talked to this guy I already mentioned, Ben Sawyer, and he insisted a lot, on AI being social, and all the machine learning models and whatnot, and all of the chatbots we interact, right? And we've just covered the story a couple of months ago when I think the guy that was from Belgium, and he committed suicide after, having interaction with the chatbot. Also last year, there was this guy, I think, I don't remember which city, but it was in the UK, who was, convinced by also an AI model that he should kill the queen, and he was plotting to do so. And here the problem is that we are all already leaning towards doing something, right? Whether it's like aside or just going to talk to that beautiful girl or boy or whatnot, we already had those ideas, and then we start talking and feeding those ideas to a chatbot who's basically using that information to learn, and to develop further. So basically, it is predestined to give you an answer that you want. And, basically, you are not talking to artificial intelligence or to a machine. You're talking to yourself. It just kind of regurgitates your ideas and spits them back to you. And that's the scary part, because, even now, like, those chatbots, they are not too advanced. Doesn't matter what other people say. They can, when it comes to like creativity, text interpretation, they're still like pretty stupid, but that doesn't matter, because it's like the same as we take our ideas to social media, and when we construct that bubble on Facebook, and when we post something, we just want some opinions, not contradicting our opinions, but basically supporting our worldview, right? So it's pretty same with those chatbots, I think.
Yeah, the echo chamber. Yeah, it's interesting what you were talking about there, because I had a friend who studied psychology with a view to actually becoming a psychoanalyst, and he completed, and he passed. He did pretty well. And I said to him, so you're going to go for it then? You're going to set up your practice in a couple of years' time? He said, I think I probably won't. It's a bit of a con, to be honest. And I said, okay, yeah, I've dabbled in it myself as a end user, and I was kind of coming to that conclusion. But I want to hear it from you, because you've studied this. And he said, well, Damien, have you heard of mirroring? And I said, no, I haven't heard of mirroring. He said, mirroring is basically when I essentially take your speech patterns, your point of view, even your body language, and I just reflect it back at you. And in so doing, I kind of give you that illusion of having been advised by a wiser person, whereas really all along it was you. You were preconditioned or predetermined, or whatever you want to put it, like, to arrive at that conclusion. But it gives you that illusion of, again, it ties in with what our colleague Ginterus wrote about AI maybe one day replacing God or scripture. It's like, that authority figure, whether it be the man in the sky or the woman or the gender neutral or the machine or the therapist, the professional, telling me what's what. But really all along it was me self-programming, and I just didn't have the confidence to take responsibility. Maybe it's not a judgment, we're all prone to that self-doubt. I had to go around the houses and somehow convince myself that this was imparted, received wisdom from another source. And it kind of echoes with what you've just said. It mirrors. But you look to the machine for an answer, and really it's you all along putting that information in. And that is interesting because obviously there are many situations where human beings do not mirror each other. You might be very confident of something or not so confident, and someone will come along either way and they'll steamroll you or give you a different look at something. And that's human interaction. And going back to what Dr. Justin Lane was saying to me, that seems to be the thing that cannot be replicated for the foreseeable future. And he did also talk about, as your guy Ben Sawyer, I think you said, did, about the social aspect of human learning and how we, again, develop that through thousands, probably millions of years, and machines just don't have that. So I must admit, having grown up, just to bring it back to the beginning of the podcast, growing up with that very dark, as you say, very doomsday vision of AI, is one day it's going to surpass us and it will do it very quickly and we're all basically screwed. The deeper I've got into this, the more, I don't want to say mundane, maybe that's doing it a disservice, but it doesn't scare me as much now as maybe it did 18 to 24 months ago. I'm not saying it doesn't scare me at all, but suddenly I am seeing limits in this thing that maybe I wasn't aware of before. And I'm not saying that this makes me an expert, but having spoken to a number of experts, as you have, Jurgita, as our colleagues have at Cyber News, it suddenly I'm not seeing this man-made, human-made, I apologize, thing that is going to suddenly pick up and run miles ahead of us where we can't keep up. I'm suddenly not seeing it.
Yeah, maybe that's why you need to tap again into fiction, because you are, starting to see it as mundane, and I think, we can't answer some of the questions, but, the only thing that I know is that we're not sure whether that can become sentient. It can definitely, be very kind of present issue, and it already is to many, people whose jobs AI is replacing. The thing is that we
I definitely think it will do. Yeah.
We
the record. Yeah.
We need to start. I know it's that might seem as a lot, but since the AI is mainstream, we also need to take as journalists, I guess, that topic mainstream, and start explaining to people all of that complexity, because it's not that complex, and it's not as scary if you look at the facts, but for those who have at least 10-20 years to live, I guess we just have to start coping with that and try and wrap our heads around it. There's it's not a technology then that you can just go and ignore, I guess, but because it's going to be everywhere. And you said that
certainly
we are more doomsday just less than 2 years ago, and the less people know, the more they are scared, right? So they need at least some basic facts to kind of have somewhat informed opinion, because if I wouldn't know anything about artificial intelligence, or would just read headlines as many people do, I think I would be scared shitless at this point,
Yeah, I mean, as always, knowledge is power, a cliche, which I'm sure ChatGPT regurgitates quite handily, even as it stands. But yeah, just to come back to the jobs aspect. Yeah, I don't doubt that ChatGPT et al. Will put many of us out of work, possibly even us, Jurgita. I'm not discounting that. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't see it as an imminent existential threat, whereas maybe I kind of had those residual fears in the back of my mind. And yeah, I hear what you're saying, get back plugged into the fiction, but fiction is drama and drama is conflict, and what is a better conflict than we're toast if we don't immediately do something to fight this. But there was one show, and apologies to the viewers, listeners, for my Swiss cheese memory, but perhaps you'll forgive me because, as we know, we get flooded with TV shows on Netflix and the like. And there was one, it was one season, it was one of the many things I think Netflix kind of ran for, a while and then cancelled. And it was a kind of near to far future setup. It had a bit of William Gibson about it. But what I thought was interesting was AI made an appearance and he had a holographic projection and he ran a hotel. But actually, in that sci-fi setup, he had become redundant. He'd kind of had it had had its 15 minutes of fame, and then other technologies had superseded it. And that always stayed with me, even though, frankly, I remember fuck all about the rest of the program. Sorry about that. But that stuck with me. This was actually a sci-fi scenario that was setting up AI as, you had your time in your son, but there were other technological developments that had overtaken it. And I just thought it might be interesting to contrast that with what we're going through now, where AI is kind of it's kind of the pinnacle of technological development at the moment. The way it's being told, that story, isn't it? I mean, there's all sorts of other interesting things. Like you said, the metaverse earlier, we have quantum computing, which could potentially do all kinds of breakthroughs in clean energy and medical treatment and what have you. And I mean, really, Sam Altman, don't want to blame the guy, but he has a lot to answer for. No, it's like AI has just pushed everything out. I mean, poor old NFTs, whatever happened to those, eh?
Yeah, but also I think, and we've talked about this, before. It really matters where you are. Of the like power structure, also which country you are in. If you
Sure.
are in northern Europe, the northern part, they are way faster with all the innovations, just because they don't like socializing with people a lot, and so they
Oh, hush.
I've read this somewhere. It's not my imagination. There was a survey, but the innovation is faster because you want to have contactless, stores and whatnot. You don't want to have the contact with a person. Whereas in Spain and all the southern part of Europe it's a bit different, because many of those services, they are also just the way of locals doing stuff, and they can be used. And if you are a business and that just having a store with a few nice cashiers would mean better business. You do that here, that you have to introduce stores with no people, and you do that, right? So, and it also depends on the economy. In the developed countries, where the majority of people have jobs, the innovation will be faster. And then, in the developing regions, I think it will be much slower, because some of the people, they are, being given jobs by the government. It's like a charity, but they kind of just need to keep those people occupied also. It's gonna be like really, really different, I guess. And also, if you are a journalist, that's one thing. If you are a farmer, that might be, a totally different story. So I don't know, maybe because we write about it a lot, and maybe because also our jobs are at stake here. So, maybe that's why we are more doomsday about that. Many of my relatives, they don't care. Some of them do pretty physical jobs at that point, and it will take years even before like truck drivers can be replaced, right? I know the technologies there, like Tesla truck is going to be there soon, but it's not that easy, not that fast to
Health and safety, a lot of hurdles to jump. Valius, did you want to jump in for Q&A? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I watched the first season, and the lead guy was the one that played. He was in House of Cards, and he played the sort of rather demonic Republican opponent to Kevin Spacey's character. Actually, I remember that House of Cards, and then I recognized him immediately. This is the one where the AI guy was running the hotel, and he stopped in there. Yeah, that's right. The very trans, and he's been downloaded into a body, his soul, if you like, and he's really annoyed because he's like, "Why am I smoking all the time? Because we downloaded you into a nicotine addict," which I thought was quite funny. So they still have all these old foibles, smoking. God, how analog is that, right? But yeah, that part with the AI was just almost like, yeah, that's yesterday's innovation. I thought that was really, that was probably the thing that actually, I know I would say this because we're doing an AI themed podcast, but that was probably the whole thing in the series that really jumped out at me. I just thought, okay, that I haven't seen before. Because as Yugita rightly says, generally when science fiction brings AI into the arena, it's the big demigod that we all have to watch out for in some way. So that was a different take. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. There are rules. Yeah, there are boundaries. Uh, it just sounds like the stuff of fantasy to me. I mean, and again, I'm only drawing this on the opinions I've listened to and recorded because that's what I do from people who have, and I have to stress this, have devoted a lot more time and energy than I have into this particular area. And it seems to me that the idea of, because how do you track a thought? You see, yeah, try having a thought without a brain. You're not going to get very far. But we have never really, and to me, I always come back to language because that's my background essentially, the brain and the mind, two different words and very different concepts. And we know that one adheres in the other, but we don't know how. I mean, we do not know how. I mean, even with something like, to give you a crude example, perhaps, but dementia. Everyone knows somebody who has a relative who is sadly going through, Alzheimer's or onset dementia. And you can tell pretty quickly when you are dealing with someone who has dementia. But now the science that we have, the best brain scanners in the world, to the best of my knowledge, they cannot just put a brain with dementia under a scanner and say, okay, it's that synapse there, it's that synapse there. And we're talking billions in one human brain. That's what's giving that person dementia. That gives the impression that any human being can interact with the other and say that person has dementia. They're losing it. And that to me is key until we get to the stage where we can absolutely accurately map the brain and link it to every social interaction that we would define as human. As, yeah, Yogita recognizes me because she's worked with me for a year and a half, and if she doesn't, all of a sudden, at least I know instinctively there's something going wrong. Just disclaim, I'm far more likely to develop dementia before Yogita, but just to have that as an example, that's
Yep.
the thing that I would say.
You see, if I can just add, the things that the science, it's not written in stone. Some things are, but it's also developing. And I think medical science will get there too. Also, dementia is something that is closely related to sentience, and that's also not something we can measure in science. So, does that exist, or is that just some sort of philosophical concept, not dementia, but sentience, that we just kind of make this construct and assign it to someone, but we don't have a science behind it to yet map it. We might want to redefine some of the diseases, I guess, especially when it comes to our brains, because not everything I think can even be mapped. But the thing is that with science, not that long ago, we thought that the smallest part was atom. Before we were able to split it, and just talking Oppenheimer now, but basically that's the gist of it, right? Science is developing, and so is the way how we get to know our brain. And also we just guys, we just released a podcast about brain hacking, and guys delve into this question in detail and with some very concrete examples, how this can be done, actually, how there can be some augmented brain reality, whatever, in interface. So I suggest you tuning into that if you have some time. It's really interesting what already can be done with technology and our brain. It's a bit scary. I need to think about this. Garbage in, garbage out, as Damien said. We get information in, information out, because we do consume a lot about it. But I don't think you even need to. And I'll think about it, because I've definitely gone through quite some stuff. I'll think about it, but I don't think we even need to turn to necessarily artificial intelligence. You can just look into, I don't know, elections, the voting for Hitler and whatnot, what human is striving to do now, creating a very smart AI, thinking that's for the better, or the bomb and whatnot, and the unforeseen consequences, the collateral damage that it has along the way. For now, what the scary content that I just watched is the Deepfake Love series on Netflix. So basically, it's scary because it's true, and again, it plays around the concept, not about what you can fake using the AI, but how your mind reacts to those concepts. So it's basically a TV show where couples are shown video footage of their significant other, in a close intimate relationship with someone else, and then you have to guess whether that's like real or deep fake. That's a simple idea, but people have really strong reactions, and even that's just deep fake, you can be disturbed to your very core, I guess. So yeah, just for me, those simple everyday things that we see experiments with AI, or like even man committing a suicide, is scary, because it shows not what the technology can do, but how even stupid technology enables us, and to do something. Yeah, but I will think about either novels or films.
Okay, I'll start with the basics here before we even get to disinformation. I know we're running out of time, but I'll give you this. Let's go back a few thousand years. You've heard of Homer, right? The Greek poet. He wrote the Iliad, the Odyssey, hundreds of lines, thousands of words. Homer was illiterate. He was composing, or should we say orating, in the Greek Dark Age. They hadn't got round to inventing the Greek script yet. Homer was illiterate. He came up with all of that and had to memorize it and declaim it. It was carried on via oral tradition, which is still practiced in many parts of the world up until a few hundred years ago. And then eventually someone invents the Greek alphabet, it gets written down and gets translated into Latin. The rest is literary history. That's moderately impressive, if you ask me. Now, fast forward back to the present day, where, so what I'm saying is literacy, you could argue kind of the invention of that, yeah, it enabled us to transmit a lot of knowledge, but it made us a bit stupid as well. I don't have to memorize things. I don't have to carry it around all up here. be like a West African griot, a walking library, a jali, and contain all that knowledge in my mind. I can just write it down, pass it down to posterity. Now, fast forward to ChatGPT, to AI. Look at Nicholas Carr, whose book I'm reading, and he had his finger on the pulse. I mean, actually, if you want to feel stupid, read him. He predicted all this more than a decade ago, 15 years ago. I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but, you know, he said, studies have already been done. This is back around 2010. Do people memorize things as well as they used to? Now they have Google, never mind reading, never mind books. No, they don't. Tests were done. People were told, memorize this, you won't be able to look it up on Google. Memorize this, you will be able to look it up on Google. The ones that knew they could get it from Google were just not as good as absorbing information. So from that point of view, I think it's bad for education. It will make us lazy at a very fundamental level. In terms of other things like positing arguments, cognition, I find, I'm sorry, but I struggle to see how AI will be a good educational tool. I think it's just going to be too easy to let it run. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a professor now. I wouldn't want to be a teacher now, having to police that. From that perspective, I do have more of a doomsday scenario outlook. I am very worried about what it will do to blunt our intellect, because as I tried to explain in a very finite amount of time, I think inventions from writing onwards, ironically from writing onwards, have already done a lot to blunt our intellect. But hitherto, they've also advanced it. Now with AI, I struggle to see how, you know, if people can just simply rely on a program, on a piece of software to generate an essay for them. And, you know, even if you were copying something physically using said writing, at least there was a chance you might reflect on what you were copying. Now you were just typing in a sentence, bang, let's get the answer and let's pass it off as something. I mean, another of our colleagues covered a story this week, wasn't it, Jurgita, where even academics now, I mean, I suspect they're third or fourth rate passing these off as PDF documents, research, and they're so lazy already that they haven't even bothered to go out and edit the parts where the AI has come back and said, as a large language learning model, I am unable to answer this. I mean, that frightens me. So I should actually backtrack a bit on what I said earlier. And in terms of the life of the mind, yeah, maybe it is an existential threat to us. And that does really concern me going forward, because for the first time now, we're looking at a tool that all you need to do is punch in a query. You don't really interact with it much, do you? Unless you're the person programming it. Am I right or wrong there? But otherwise, you are just asking it for an answer and you're getting your stock answer. You know, it's one level down from copying from an encyclopedia in the old days, isn't it?
Yeah, but you see, it's really different, because I was toying because I wanted to kind of talk about books with an app, and I found this like subscription based, they're expensive actually. You know, app where you can basically track your reading. So, you know, and one of its functionalities, you know, this chatbot that you can chat about books with, you know. And I was thinking, okay, so there aren't that many people that I can, you know, chat about certain books, because even if people read, they don't necessarily read the same books as you do, you know. And here's the AI buddy who knows all the books you've read, right? And it's been trained on those books, and it can keep, you know, up with the conversation. And, you know, that's when it gets tricky. If you get into the interpretation of certain books, you know, and not ask for facts, but ask for, you know, opinion, that's where it actually gets really creepy, you know. That's also, you know, where they are really stupid. But, you know, I just remember, and I posted that in the chat, I don't know, the guys out there, if you see that, the book, I remembered one of them, better ones that I read even before I started working here is by Viktor Pelevin, a prominent Russian author, called I Fuck 10. And that's, the book where basically human mind kind of wrestles, I guess, with the AI and so that would be my recommendation, like really brief read, but as Pelevin does, he paints quite a picture, of how doomsday that world could be, where basically AI could kill you because you.
Okay. Not sure what the question is there. Sorry. I mean, I think it's possible that we could let AI do horrible things to us in terms of we could let it hijack our education system, our autonomy of thought by becoming incredibly lazy and allowing it to dumb us down. I definitely think it could end up wiping out a lot of jobs. And then if people get greedy and they don't have a social conscience, they won't create a safety net to answer that, like universal basic income or whatever. In terms of, no, I don't think sentience is a choice. I think we are sentient whether we like it or not. Believe me, there are a lot of times where I would quite happily not be self-aware. I think it's called going out and getting drunk. I think that's why people do things like that. This is a serious point. I don't think it's a choice. I think it's more like the other way around, Valley. I think sentience gives rise to the ego, because we're able to contemplate ourselves in the abstract. I think what it comes back down to is, okay, do I think AI will develop those same foibles, like that same capacity and therefore the same hangups? Possibly, but I must say I remain quite convinced by Dr. Lane's arguments that the way he put it, and again, what do I know? I'm not an expert. I'm just a person that talks to experts about this sort of thing quite a lot, but I remain quite convinced by that argument that for the foreseeable future, I do not see how a machine that doesn't really have sensory perception, it's not informed by the five senses, right? A large language model can't see, feel, or taste to the best of my knowledge. I do not see it overcoming us until it learns how to do that. However, yes, if we start to get into cyborg territory where we're able to somehow connect those large language models to something that can communicate sensory perception to it, but by then, surely it will become so obvious. I mean, already if you've got Sam Altman being pulled up before Congress, and even he's saying, yes, you need to start regulating the shit out of us, quite frankly. I can't see us getting to the point where we have Terminators running around and nothing has been done. Then again, human beings do have incredible amounts of hubris, and they are greedy for things like profit, and people can be incredibly oblivious and stupid. So I wouldn't rule it out, Valius, but I don't see it happening, say, in the next 5 to 10 years. And as always, I caveat that with I could be egregiously wrong on that point, but that would be my instinctive response to that question.
Yeah, but you see, I think machines are already superior to us because they don't have that self-awareness. And some animals are superior to us when it comes to strength and whatnot, because they don't understand pain as we do. And that's why, it's easier when you don't have those feelings towards the other. You can actually feel what other person is feeling, whether therefore you can achieve more. And those people who don't have that social contact, or are not as sentient and or not as just sensitive as other people are, they can, get better results when it comes to career and whatnot.
But what will be its purpose? Because, I mean, does this superior machine, and you say it doesn't have feelings, therefore presumably doesn't have an ego or has less of an ego without the reptilian brain driving it on?
survival. It's always survival, and the evolution and even the sentience, it came to be as a result of our species need to survive. And I think because
because we have egos, because we have feelings, because we hate the thought of not existing, of being compromised, of being extinguished. But if this super machine you're positing has no feelings, it cannot care.
You see, it's not super machine. We are building machines and building AI so that it could do certain stuff for us, and so it could cure diseases and solve climate change and whatnot, so that we as humans could live there for generations, right? But what the experts are also talking about those autonomous machines, meaning that we will be probably sending machines where we don't want to sacrifice humans. So, space, war in Ukraine, everywhere else. And, once you have a lot of, machines in one place acting quite autonomously because no human person can be there, I don't know, Mars, for example, right? Or any other planet that's, where it's dangerous. Well, first of all, of course, it can be hacked and whatnot, but also if it's
that would be a human actor
and autonomous enough, it can start acting on its own behalf or whatnot, just malfunction, and therefore just protecting our own species, we can put ourselves in a really big danger, just kind of giving too much tasks to those machines and not being there to kind of supervise them, even though they might be or might not be superior. They still need supervision. Otherwise, that could be dangerous. It's just like leaving a stove when you
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, definitely, letting the car run over. Yeah, on a much more sophisticated level and potentially more catastrophic. But that still boils down to human error, doesn't it? It's like if we put too much faith in the machine, it tries to do the job as well as it's been programmed to do, and things run amok. So let's say we send it to mine Mars or whatever, and it tries to follow its programming, and something goes awry, something goes wrong, and it malfunctions. Or we give it control of hospitals, and it starts administering the wrong drug. Yeah, accidents will happen, and accidents here can happen on a monumental scale. But I guess I thought what Valius was asking is whether, and maybe I've misunderstood here, but sentience or ego will come into play. I mean, but I think it's always going to be our sentience and our ego. I do not see how these machines develop a self-awareness and ego-driven self-consciousness, at which point they start to say, actually, screw you, monkey people. Thanks for creating us, but now your time on this planet, in this universe, is done. I'm still not seeing the road to that eventuality.
We are training those machines on human data, not on robot data. Maybe in 50 years, they could have some different data sets to learn from. But now we are putting our understanding of the world, our history. We're training those on those really racist data sets, right? So we are more building a mirrors to ourselves, basically. And even though that's a machine, we are trying to build something that resembles a human, I guess. So even if that would be imaginable machine ego, that still would resemble human ego, and maybe you could expect that they would be as predictable as we humans are, right?
Yeah, absolutely, or maybe not, and maybe they do eventually outstrip us. I guess my only point, such as it is I'm not seeing yet that kind of fast track, even within my lifetime, where the machine not only becomes human, but then transcends it. Yeah, I can see it going horribly wrong in all sorts of ways. I can see it destroying jobs that aren't replaced by a mission of human action, which causes all kinds of social problems. yeah, I could see the machines being programmed to do certain things, and then something unforeseeable happens and they end up doing more harm than good, that kind of thing. What I'm not seeing is the imminent kind of rise of the machines where they consciously, as an ego-driven, self-aware pitch for power, rise up and say, okay, humanity, your time is done now. We are taking over consciously. I don't see that.
Let's have the same discussion in a year. I bet you'll have quite a different answer to this.
You might be right. Oh yeah, I'm not making any hard bets on this. I'm just saying, as things stand right now, on this date in 2023, I haven't seen enough to convince me that that time is nigh. But okay, I may be wrong about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having us.